For literally thousands of years, farming has kicked off with the exact same act, preparing the earth. You break up the soil, you get it ready to plant a seed. It's an image we all have in our heads. But what if the future of farming looks completely different? What if it means just leaving the soil alone? So, this classic method is called tillage. It's basically the process of churning up the soil with machines, plowing it, stirring it, flipping it over, all to create this clean, loose bed for the seeds. I mean, from the first handheld hose to the giant tractors we see today, this has been the bedrock of agriculture since, well, forever. And for centuries, the main idea was that more was always better. Get this, the famous agricultural pioneer Jethro Tull actually argued that you should pulverize the soil into a fine powder. He thought that was the secret to making it fertile. And that idea, that you had to really work the land hard, it dominated farming for hundreds and hundreds of years. But that brings us to a really radical question. What if the best way to care for our soil and grow our food is to challenge that ancient practice? What if the next huge leap forward in farming is to just stop tilling? Okay, let's really dive into this. To get to the bottom of it, we're going to start with the conventional method, then we'll check out the no-till approach. After that, we'll see how each one impacts the planet, and finally, we'll step into a farmer's shoes to really understand the tough choices they're facing. So first up, the method we all kind of picture when we think of farming, conventional tillage. The best way to think about it is creating a clean slate. The goal is to turn everything over, bury all the old stuff from the last crop, and get a perfectly uniform, clear field that's ready for new seeds. And listen, there are some really practical reasons why this has been the standard for so long. Tilling makes a nice, fluffy bed for seeds to sprout in. It's a super effective way to get rid of weeds without using chemicals. Plus, it mixes in fertilizers and helps the dark, bare soil warm up faster in the spring, which is a huge deal in colder climates. But what if there's a totally different way to think about all this? Well, that brings us to the no-till approach. And this is way less about clearing the field and a lot more about working with the natural systems that are already there. So, no-till farming needs some pretty specialized gear. This planter you see here is designed to do something amazing. It slices right through all the stalks and leaves left over from last year's harvest, opens up just a tiny slit in the soil, and drops a seed in. The rest of the field, it stays completely untouched. And all that leftover stuff, that crop residue, it's not waste at all. It's actually the key to the whole system. It's like armor for the soil, a natural mulch that protects it, saves moisture, and even feeds all the life that's living down there. Okay, so we've got two very different philosophies here. One that disturbs the soil and one that protects it. Now let's put them head to head and really see what that means for the health of our planet. The most dramatic difference right off the bat is erosion. When you till soil and leave it bare, it's just completely exposed to wind and rain. That can lead to a massive loss of topsoil. Think of the Dust Bowl. But that residue cover in no-till farming, it acts like a shield, holding that precious soil right where it belongs. It also completely changes how soil handles water. Over time, conventional tilling can create this dense, compacted layer called a hardpan just under the surface. When rain hits it, the water just runs right off. No-till, on the other hand, builds this amazing soil structure, full of channels and pores. It basically turns the soil into a giant sponge, soaking up heavy rain and holding onto that moisture when things get dry. And here is a really crucial point, especially for our climate. Healthy soil is this massive storage tank for carbon. But every single time that soil is tilled, it's like opening a can of soda. Whoosh! That stored carbon is exposed to oxygen and gets released into the atmosphere as CO2. No-till farming keeps that carbon safely locked in the ground. It's a really powerful tool to help fight climate change. Tilling is also just devastating to what you could call the soil's invisible workforce. It literally destroys the homes of earthworms and tears apart the complex networks of microbes and fungi. In fact, research from places like the University of the District of Columbia shows tilling is especially bad for certain fungi that plants absolutely need to grab nutrients. No-till lets that whole underground world just thrive. So with all these clear environmental wins, you're probably thinking, why isn't every single farm a no-till farm? Well, for the farmer on the ground, the decision is way more complicated than it seems. It's a real, practical dilemma. And this chart really breaks down the trade-offs they have to weigh. For example, conventional tilling is awesome for killing weeds without chemicals, but it costs a fortune in fuel and labor because you have to make so many passes over the field.
No-till, on the other hand, saves a ton on fuel, but you've got to buy brand new, expensive equipment, and you have a major, major challenge with weeds. And that risk of yields dipping at the beginning, that's a huge gamble for any business.
And that weed problem, that's the heart of the dilemma. If you can't use a plow to rip out the weeds, you often have to rely more on chemical herbicides. And that, of course, raises some serious concerns about creating herbicide-resistant superweeds that become nearly impossible to control. Because of all this, it's not always a black and white choice. A lot of innovative farmers are finding a middle ground. They're using hybrid systems, like strip tillage, where you only till a narrow little band of soil for planting. Or they'll rotate methods from year to year. It's all about trying to get the best of both worlds. So in the end, this decision, it goes way beyond just one field or one season. It really points to a fundamental shift in how we see our relationship with the land. The choice between turning over the earth or leaving it alone really asks a deeper question. Is our job to command the soil, or is it to collaborate with it?